That was really interesting, and I think it's a pretty good segue into our next presenter, who's Andre Feliciano from Brazil. And come on, are you ready? So, I think this is a very good segue from the last part about the integrated design and art and stuff, because you are an integrated design art farmer.
Thank you. Hello. So first, I'd like to thank you, Satoshi and Santi, for organizing this great event. Lindsay, also. So welcome to the Floraissance. And today we're going to talk about being a resilient art gardener. I know I don't have any sense, but let's go. So I started working as an artist. So I create these art installations where you can take a photograph of the garden, and the garden takes a photograph back. So you kind of connect with nature in a photographic way. And I did exhibition in museums, in New York, in like public installations. But in a way, to be an artist, we know the path to go. You have to build a work, and then you have to do exhibitions in museums, you have to have an art gallery, and then you sell your work. So to be an artist, we know how to do it already. So I decided, out of the blue, that, and I'm still doing this work. I did a show in LA last year, a greenhouse. And I decided to invent a new work, a new job, that I call the art gardener. Not the art farmer, but the art gardener. And then I didn't have any idea what is to be an art gardener. So to start, I developed a professional clothing that is overalls. And since 2006, every day I wear these overalls. And you know, like a doctor wears scrubs, and like a lawyer wears suit. So I have this clothing to get me motivated. And I paint my thumb green, because if I have a green thumb, you're a good gardener, so maybe it can help me, right? And maybe you're saying, oh, I'm sure he's not wearing these overalls every day. What happened when he goes to the beach? I'm sure somebody thought about that. So here I am in the beach. And if you take a look here, I'm trying to make coffee with the sunshine of the beach. It was kind of a fun project. So I was brewing coffee there. But then there comes the second question. So I have the overalls. Oh, I have a green book, a notebook that fits the pocket for the overalls, and then a pen, so I can cultivate the ideas. But what should I cultivate? Like, we see a plant. We know that the plant is alive if we are doing a good job. Like, the plant's getting bigger, more green. Like, we know that we are being a good gardener to this plant. Also, we see the plant is getting kind of brownish. The leaves are kind of, no? And we know we are not doing a good job. But how can we know, as an art gardener, how can we recognize what's the life of art? How can I know if I'm doing a good job with art? How can we know if art is alive or if art is dying? So that was the second question. And I think the insight took me a couple of years. But the insight is that, if I invent a new song or a new work of art or anything, if I teach this new song to somebody, this other person can learn and sing in the shower, in the car, who knows, right? And then these new persons can teach somebody else. that can teach somebody else. In a way, this art, this music I created, is alive in culture through time. So I think the conclusion is that the life of art is education. So if the art have an educational process involved, have a bigger chance that it keep it alive. So I have two things. I have the overalls, and I know that the life of art is education. And then come the third question. So what do I cultivate? So I invented this new word, Floraissance. If I'm cultivating art, I hope in the future we have flowers. In a way, the Floraissance is a mixture of flora and renaissance. It's like a nature renaissance. If all these projects we are doing to bring nature back to life, in a way, is a kind of the Floraissance. So that's the goal of my life, to cultivate, and can take years. I'm already using these overalls and doing these projects for 14 years. And that's a kind of a resilience. So to be an art gardener is, in a way, you have to keep doing the same thing, improving all the time. Oh. So in a way, one question follows the other. What is the Floraissance? And in a way, is the shift only to think about the moment. Like Nike, I just want to produce the shoes and then sell it, or to think in the long terms. As a gardener, so I need to think about what's going to happen and how the future is going to react. In a way, the shift from the contemporary to the long-term mentality is what I want to change in society with this word, the Floraissance. I want to help people to incorporate this mentality. And then the other question, how should I spread the seeds of the Floraissance? So what I do, how can I best cultivate the Floraissance? How can I cultivate this idea? How can I show this idea to others? I'm just an art gardener. I don't have much thing behind me. I'm just a simple green thumb guy. So what I do, I go to places and I hang signs all over the place. So this is a way that I'm resilient. I hang the same signs in the same spots for years. And I change the sayings, and here's in New York. So for 5 years now, I'm putting the signs. And they change a little bit, and I say to everyone, hey, contemporary art has become outdated, the Floraissance has begun. And I keep doing it, and I keep doing it. And it takes time. And the good news, like 2 weeks ago, I have this call, actually it was an email, from a museum in Berlin. And it's new, even not my mother knows about it yet. So they invited me to bring this Floraissance project to a museum in Berlin. They call it the Bohem Museum. So I'll bring the signs, I'll bring the story, and this will be there for 6 months in the museum. So it took 5 years to have this little sprout, but it happens, you know. So I'm very happy about it. So it's in New York. But that's not enough. And what should I do? I have the overalls, I have the green book, green thumb, the idea about the Floraissance, but how can I transform all these into a practical project? Right? This for now is just ideas, but how can I transform into a practical project? And of course, one good thing that happened in my life was that this summer camp for the art in New York, call it Use Then. There's like a beautiful camp in New York. They have only art classes. So they have dances, art, music, orchestra. They made a partnership with this other foundation called Little Sun Foundation. that was created by this Berlin-based artist, Olafur Eliasson. And they have this little solar lamp. So every time they sell a lamp in New York and São Paulo, they sell one lamp very cheaply to Africa for a kid who doesn't have light, now can have in a sustainable way. Instead of having the kerosene lamps that hurt the eyes and the body, they can change for a solar lamp. So they made a partnership and they created this new class, sustainable design. And they invited me to lead this class. But the problem is that I'm not an engineer, I'm not a designer. So I didn't have no idea what to do. And all the projects we created, in a way, was in this gardener mentality, this art gardener. So if we can have a garden and cultivate tomato and lettuce and carrots, how can we cultivate energy? How can we harvest heat from the sun or from the music, or energy from the music vibration? So I'm here to show a few projects that we did there. And to be honest, first it never worked, but then we slowly developed together with resilience until it works. The first one, the solar power balloon. See, didn't work. Then we did a new design, didn't work. And then we did make it bigger, maybe it was the size the problem. Look how beautiful the camp, like in the middle of the woods. And then we created, that didn't work, so we created like a other version, new technology. And then it's flying. And then I bring all these things we create with the kids, with the youth, I bring to my own art practice. So I did this balloon, welcome to the Floraissance, and just put it there. And the other project is a solar barbecue. And the first year was very small, like, didn't work very well also. We could warm up like a marshmallow. And then the second year we did a little bigger. And the idea is that you put water inside, like in the top of this plastic, and become like a shape of a lens. And then you're going to see what happened. And then last year we did like this ultimate version. So when the sunshines come through, concentrate in one spot, and we can make pizza. And we could pop popcorn. Eight popcorns we popped. Look. And then I tried to bring also to my art practice. So I did in 4th of July in Brooklyn Bridge Park. No, in Brooklyn Park. Didn't work, was not sunny enough. And then in Berlin, I tried to do it, but was not sunny also. And it was very interesting because these guys here, they started making fun of me. They say, hey, how much hours to cook the sausage? 2 days? And I said, and then we started talking, and then and then they started offering me food because I didn't have any. Without the sunshine, I couldn't have food. So even the solar barbecue thing didn't cook. We generated togetherness, and we developed this good, a little community there. So in a way, sustainable projects generate these collective things. And this is my favorite project. It's a gong power generator. And how to generate music, electricity with music. It's nothing? Happens.
So Ryan.
And then you transfer all the systems to like a gong.
Run it.
And?
Harder. It works. A little bit. See, it flickered for a bit. Try hitting it harder.
Can you hear the dam behind?
Can I try?
So then we created a gong power generator. And we can create, so now, and then this class have this technology, and maybe next year we can do a piano power generator. And slowly, we are doing this project for 3 years now. So we're going to the 4th year, and it's always a lot of fun. So let's do one more. Oh, this is a fun one. It's the rainbow machine. So how can we create a machine to make rainbows? It's a good question, right? So this is the solar lamp, the little suns. They're practicing.
I love that.
And we did a night walk in the park in Providence Island. Oh, that's it. So we create a rainbow machine. Now we can do rainbows anytime we want. In the next one, I think, it's a hammock power generator. So how can you get energy from a hammock? How can you be lazy and get energy at the same time?
Okay, pull me. Rock me. It works.
Can you see the little
Guys, look at it.
LEDs over there?
Beautiful. You're creating energy.
And this project was very important because all the time in my class I have a hammock nearby. And in my class, the kids don't need to work. If they want, they just can relax in the hammock. And they make new friends, and they just stay there. So I proposed myself to create a hammock with them, a hammock power generator. But the hard part is that all generators are circular, like a water turbine or like a wind turbine. So how to transform this movement into energy? And I'm not an engineer. It took me 2 years to try to slowly develop this project. I'm sure maybe some engineers here could take like 5 minutes, but it took me 2 years to get that. And here's a little overview of other projects. So we harvest energy from the waste of the air that's coming from the air conditioner. And then it's getting the battery. And we collect water, and we do like a water system when you pump the water up to get energy. The classic.
How it works is you push.
This is a
when
wind
air
power
comes through,
air
it gets
conditioner.
compact and it gets colder as it goes through. It's like an air conditioning, but better for the environment.
And we could heat water from the compost so we can make tea. And the water gets very hot, like plus 50 degrees. And the wind power air conditioner is very interesting because the wind just goes through these bottles and gets colder on the other side. So I have all this path. So I decided to become an art gardener, and then I created the overalls with the green book, a pen, green thumb. Then I find out what is the art, what is the life of art, and then start hanging the signs, and then have the opportunity to teach kids and make the Floraissance a practical thing, because these kids probably, they can incorporate this idea of a sustainable society and that we can generate energy from anything, from crabs, bread, wine, right? Hammocks. And a solar microwave we created here. So, yeah, this is a little of the story I came here to share with you. And the sign's still there. If I have time, I will put one around here. And I think the main idea is that everyone's welcome to help to cultivate this. Everyone's helping to cultivate this long-term society. Could have other names. I suggest the Floraissance have other names around. And I think in the end, everyone wants to find a way to reconnect with nature. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
Hey, so where can I get these pants? Do you sell those pants?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes? So I think you can see from his presentation how there's energy everywhere. It's the same thing that Satoshi's talking about. There's energy everywhere. All we have to do is make use of it in a good way. So our next speaker is Marisa Yu, and she's going to talk about her design trust. Come on up here. Oh, you're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you for having me, and thank you Nakagawa-san and Tucker for the introduction. So just a little bit of a background. Also myself, I suppose just now Eric did a very good introduction about half my hat. So I'm an architect, designer, and also I would say maybe a little bit of a troublemaker to bring people together. I've co-founded a foundation called Design Trust, where we invest in great ideas, experimentation, and also bringing communities together. So creating platforms to also support and stimulate the positive process of design. I'm trying to make sure this actually works. And so my topic today will be looking at future community and the role of social philanthropy. The foundation now is 13 years old, and specifically been very active since 2014, so approximately 6-7 years ago. I stepped in with a leadership role to reimagine the role of design, not only purely as in terms of for service, but also for the Greater Bay Area and Hong Kong and China's kind of network and impact. So what we've been doing is we are a fundraising platform, but we not only fundraise and support young designers or fresh graduates out of school, we also support international projects that have impact with Hong Kong, Greater Bay Area, and regionally and internationally. It sounds extremely bold, but we, in terms of responding to today's theme, very much about micro-impact and sea grants, providing support to very young graduates out of school, to extremely important kind of network structures to reinvent how we collaborate, not only within an institution itself, but also in the public realm. So in the past, we've done conversation series, like what Nakagawa-san was talking about, the power of dialogue and debate and process. We also spend a lot of funding into research fellowships and projects from the 60s, 70s, 80s, looking back in heritage, and the role of very specific young designers who, in one sense, being from Hong Kong and China and Asia, the loss of our heritage and craft because of globalization and internationalization. So some of the core activities we do is we support thought-provoking investigations to environment, sustainability initiatives. We also bring the public to private business and the private business out into the public realm and produce a cultural think tank program. It's not been an easy process to communicate, but over the last 3.5 years, we've actually grown and supported 96 different fellows and grantees all over the world. We have very young Elaine, one of our feature grantees, looking at a very specific village in China, Guizhou, looking at the indigo process making and craft making to produce new objects, to produce sustainable initiatives in the village environment. We also been supporting, I would say, troublemakers of design innovation, a project called Dim Sum Lab, where they've been sharing knowledge of open source innovation and technology, and we helped to support their design initiative and user manual. We've also been looking very closely at this issue of unidentified acts of design, very much from bottom up. So how did, say, the drone developers of DJI started, the role of WeChat and social connection and communication strategies. And this, in fact, was then presented in London for the first time in the Chinese gallery at the V&A Gallery, showcasing Chinese design, not through ceramics, but through innovation and technology. So we're a very small NGO with lots of ambition, but we're borderless. So as long as you have great ideas and expertise looking at Hong Kong, China, Asia region, we also support and fund that. So for example, we had a very interesting partnership with New Institute looking at automation, the future of automation and automated landscapes, bringing experts to Hong Kong to discuss and share their research. We've also now, in 2 weeks' time, supporting Rem Koolhaas's OMA project on the future of the countryside. And very soon in the Serpentine Gallery, a very exciting project by Chao Fei, a contemporary artist, looking at the role of urbanization in China and its effects today. So with all these different projects responding to regeneration of good and philanthropy, we're testing new ideas of how funding mechanisms can also be situated to produce a portfolio of ideas that can be disseminated. One of the teams in Hong Kong called Design Lab has produced about 50 to 60 case studies of micro factories in Hong Kong, looking at old seafood and artisans, how they create new and novel techniques from old practices, archiving that, and also giving opportunity to connect the kind of artisans with the community. And there's also other projects we're supporting, perhaps not so much different to the Thai language. There's a lot of typography and history of graphic design that is slowly being lost, that we're also archiving and restoring the history of a very specific character of Chinese language. So through the foundation, we look at a larger system of design through history, and the biggest investment we're focusing on is on sustainability. So 2 grantees that we've worked quite closely with. One is looking at micro-civic architecture. He was analyzing the waste streams of a particular neighborhood in Hong Kong, collecting and analyzing and documenting how the waste streams are being produced, and then recreating a new system of micro-civic architecture to house and host new collection of waste and different types of technologies. One thing that Florian and Christine received a seed grant from our Design Trust Foundation, very much focused on collecting all the waste from the harbor front of Hong Kong and testing new possibilities of the ceramics, glass, wood materials that are being collected to produce something new. But as a foundation, we don't just support through finance support. We also produce a system of a new think tank lab, or laboratory, we're calling the Design Trust Future Studios Initiative. Something we're very deeply invested in to produce new knowledge and enhance and harness the power of expertise. So it's not learning within a very set curriculum, but it allows us to bring different voices together in one very focused question. So the first question we had, or first theme in 2017, was small is meaningful. So we're analyzing not only like micro power, the role of micro-living, but also the harnessing of what we called fleetership. I suppose flies are small insects that are lightweight and flee, but in one sense is also the power of making transformation and change. And through this project, we had a very simple question about how to reinvent the role of living in Hong Kong if the research of urbanization and people are living in smaller and smaller apartments, what is the focus and the future of living within what we call now nano-living architecture, where 200 square feet seems to be a normative? Then the question is, how do we utilize the power of these young designers and grantees within a foundation to create new spaces and public amenities? So this is one example of a micro park as a response to micro-living. We had a algae oxygen diffuser system. We collected a lot of the containers that are being collecting for waste and reusing them into making them into playgrounds for the community. So the Design Trust Future Studio program starts off with an 18-month process. We bring together a series of young designers 10 years out of school, in one sense harnessing the power of the brilliance of the youth who've graduated from different disciplines. We bring architects together to work with graphic designers, to elderly experts, to gardeners or botanists, to work alongside, I would say, expertise or mentors from the field. And this in particular was a big question that actually provoked a lot of reaction from the government in Hong Kong when we told them about the land utilization development plans, and if we keep building and keep erasing the green belts, there won't be any parks left. And so we created this mobile park as a hypothesis to say, if there's no more parks for the future, for the community, it might be an Uber delivery system. What would be the future of living in urban dense environments like Bangkok, Thailand, or Hong Kong, or Shenzhen? And this provoked a lot of questions about our future of living. And through these prototypes and discussions, the think tank grew larger and larger. We had legislators, journalists, very devoted artists, designers, to even activists come together from the government to the grassroots to sit together. And we designed these events where we bring the design crits from an institutional university learning system into the public. And everyone gets to share their ideas, critique them, and produce an impact. At this particular moment, we're extremely fortunate to have now aroused enough attention. There's about 2,000 small parks in Hong Kong. And you can imagine the power of, instead of having a huge cultural park district, imagine the urban pocket gardens within the neighborhoods of different areas become revived and revitalized for the community. So we started this very interesting initiative, expanding the Design Trust Future Studio program, and we now have 4 parks underway, and it's a huge knowledge exchange project where we have the Design Trust Foundation bringing in young designers to participate, building a sense of philanthropy and volunteerism, working with government architects who often you think are 9 to 5, but we managed to get them involved where they stay beyond 10 p.m. after work, 11 p.m. To work together, donating their expertise and time to produce, I would say, different site-specific parks, micro parks, mini parks, nano parks for the community in Hong Kong. So the theme 2 years ago was Plays for the People. We have 4 different parks, one in Tsuen Wan, which is one of the highest density subdivided flat areas in Hong Kong, where we created a communal playground that's being developed. We have another park that is under an infrastructural highway that's being developed, researched and designed with the community, with other NGOs, and 2 other very high dense areas in Kowloon, which will foster another way of designing parks, not from the government bureaucratic manner, but we really with the community in place. So these are just some of the design ideas. And part and parcel with projects that are regenerating the community's input, and we do a lot of on-the-ground grassroots connections, working with media, local communities. We have been very lucky to get some grant funding to actually bring designers overseas to learn, say, from different public initiatives in New York. And because of certain strategies in place, some of the designers are creating new public space furniture that are heavy enough not to be stolen, but light enough for the elderly to move around. Because you see these parks that are being produced are all not customized. They're just bought from a catalog. So how do we engage the community in a way to allow different types of innovation through design prototyping and new platforms of engaging the community. So if we can play this video, I can talk through it. This process has allowed us to expand a lot of knowledge. You can play the video. And we're now actively building an archive, documenting different sites around the world, and also communicating different strategies. Yeah. Of building a contribution and participatory platform for the public to participate in building parks. I hope this is working. There should be a video. If it doesn't work, I can, we can play it afterwards. I'll just keep moving along then. So the Future Studio program, in one aspect, not only looking at themes like smallness, play for the humanity and community. One major project we're still developing is heritage as innovation. And because of cities in development, a lot of heritage and identity of cities are disappearing, and a lot of beautiful old buildings are also being lost. So one thing we put together last year was a project called Heritage as Innovation under this mentor-mentee think tank laboratory concept, where we produce an active connection where we have all these very young, brilliant design innovators partnering with mentors who have over 20 to 30 years of experience and curate a series of workshops and dialogues with very active ideas to innovate new materials and projects. Often we don't know what the outcome is, but through this very intensive process, what we've realized is this openness of generosity of the public and private sector coming together has actually profoundly produced different ways of expertise and innovation. This very beautiful building behind us was going to be demolished 15 years ago, but it was restored and kept, and was built in 1936, one of the few revitalization heritage buildings in Hong Kong. And through this particular program, what we've done is we've stitched together 8 young designers, all from very different backgrounds, to work with experts from conservation, fabrication, technology, and to produce site-specific work within a very beautiful old building. So this particular project, I wanted to deep dive a little bit more. We managed to work with the Hall Power Music Foundation, also Taiping, which is a 65-year-old manufacturing company based out of Hong Kong. And through this particular project, we found one photograph of, from the 1940s of a very old carpet within the site. And through this particular project, Michelle worked very closely with Elaine, the fabricator that we I shared a little bit before, and managed to produce a new system. I'm going to try to get to this slide, because this particular project, and if we can also show the video if it's working. A new system of weaving and manufacturing of 75 different yarns in this particular object was produced. What was really powerful was in supporting Aling's Fabric Lab for the last few years. She's innovated new systems of weaving techniques, and partnering with the 65-year-old company with a factory in Xiamen. They had 200,000 different archives in their library that we were able to have access to produce new materials and introduce 9 different yarns that are interactive, heat-sensitive, and also transform to UV light. In the history of this particular manufacturer, they've actually never tried this new system of production. And we're very pleased that not only are we producing new objects from a very specific heritage and identity, we're also able to innovate new ways of looking at community engagement. And some of the, I'll just show you the last image. Some of the really powerful moments were when we brought in different communities outside. Again, it's not too dissimilar to what Eric was talking about with the Biennale, but opening up public heritage sites and education to inspire the community. We had young children come, engage with the materials in different ways. We were able to reinvent the use of certain plastic materials, and also take a lot of the offshoots from the manufacturing to produce new objects that are hardening ceramics for outdoor use. And finally, what is actually also equally quite powerful is reuse of these old tiling roof structures from the heritage site, combining it with a plastic open source machine to produce new light objects that look like marble glass, but in fact is made out of microplastics collected from the harbor waste. So these are the projects we're doing at Design Trust in the foundation. It's a way to bring about support to the community through making and experimentation, and at the same time produce mentorship and menteeships, which in the end is not linear, from master and a new system of learning where we're able to communicate and collaborate with a model of social philanthropy and to produce new forms of financing and experimentation that typically no one wants to fund. We're very interested in taking that chance to experiment with new funding models to produce new objects that also can improve and produce more sustainable environments. So that's my presentation today. Thank you very much for having me.